Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Asian Blokes Podcast, a podcast where we talk about Asian pop culture, films, TV shows, comic books, anime, music, food, video games, whatever we're feeling at the time, really. My name is Dan with H, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Harvey. Hello, Harvey.
Hey, Dan.
What's up?
Yeah. No, not much, man. Feeling pretty good.
It's pretty hot right now, though.
Oh, it's hot in Sydney.
It is hot in Sydney. You're getting ready for a heat wave, aren't you?
Yeah, we're getting ready for, I think Wednesday is going to be like 30 degrees. Then
Jeez.
Thursday's like 34. And then like Friday is like 37 or 30. It keeps fluctuating between 37 to 39 degrees. And I'm like, oh, this might be like the last episode that we film.
It's going to turn into husks, dried husks.
We're going to turn to husks, yeah. We're continuing the romance theme.
Yes.
Not to any plan or anything. This episode is really random.
Yeah. we had a couple of episodes planned, and then yesterday you were like, "I watched this movie. Let's talk about this movie tomorrow."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What? What is this?"
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Because I actually haven't finished watching some of the stuff that we were planned on doing. But yeah, no, I seriously, this movie, the movie that we're going to talk about today is it's a romance drama that's on Netflix. It's called 20th Century Girl, and it's got my one and only favorite actress, or one of, which is what drew me initially to this movie. And it had actually been on my radar for a little while, but you know, I usually go through themes and waves of films. So sometimes I'll watch a lot of horror. Sometimes I watch a lot of like drama or then dark comedies or animation. But yeah, it hasn't been Valentine's Day yet. But I'm like, yeah, I guess I should watch some romance stuff.
Into the spirit.
Yeah. But it's weird. I was in the mood for watching something fairly light because I've been watching a lot of very light shows recently, nothing that's been very heavy. And I kind of just finished a bunch of work. So, seriously, on the Saturday I decided to watch this movie, I'd basically, spent all day in the garden just, rereading a Murakami book and American Psycho at the same time.
Okay.
So yeah, I was having a very relaxed day. So I'm I'm just gonna watch this movie, which I wonder I actually really enjoyed this movie.
Okay.
I've talked about liking romance films previously, but you would usually associate me with watching some pretty heavy stuff.
Well, I mean,
right?
You're typically not much of an American romantic comedy guy, but you do have more of an attachment to the Asian romance stuff. That said, it's still not your main thing. I would say.
Not usually.
Especially the Korean romance films. I reckon because you're pretty into Wong Kar-wai films, kind of that brooding, that brooding really type of romance. Whereas Korean romantic films tend to be a bit more upbeat. Until they're not.
Until they're not. I guess that's kind of a plot point in this one.
But yeah, this film is on Netflix. It's a film from last year, right?
Yeah, 2022.
And you did mention that Han Hyo-jo is in it, but I wouldn't say she's the main lead in this film. Although she does play the same character as the main lead, Kim Yoo-Jung.
And she basically plays straight into her wheelhouse that I very much enjoy. Just the very adorably cute, Korean girl, the very charming girl.
Yeah, that character is pretty much just Han Hyo-jo. The whole time I was thinking, oh, this actress, Kim Yoo-Jung, she's doing a really good, Han Hyo-jo impression.
I feel like this is probably why I really like this movie, because Kim Yoo-Jung does a really good job of being Han Hyo-jo, basically. But, yeah, the movie, it's mostly set in 1999 in Korea, and it's basically about Na-bora, played by Kim Yoo-Jung, who is trying to, I guess, stalk a guy for her best friend who is having heart surgery in New York, a very convincingly CGI New York.
Did they show New York? I didn't even notice that. It must have been some kind of
like
montage.
a bit where like there's a plane, which is obviously a CGI plane that flies over the Statue of Liberty, and I'm like, yeah, nice try, movie.
Yeah, but like, there's a bit of that as well. Like there's a bit where there's like a shot of New Zealand, and I'm like, oh, that looks a bit.
Yeah, that looks a little bit CGI. But yeah, like, because her friend like bumps into some dude.
Yeah, so her friend, the character's name is Yoo-Jung. So right before she has to leave to America for her heart surgery, she bumps into a high school boy, and she's like to her friend, Yoo-Jung, you gotta keep tabs on this guy. You gotta find out everything about him. You gotta basically stalk him while I'm in America, so that when I come back, I can be his girlfriend.
I actually want to make a point about because there's basically two guys in this movie, right? Mm-hmm. There is a reason I called him some dude, which we'll get into later. But overall, what I like about this movie is I like the color palette to this movie. The coloring, I think it's like almost like an evolution of a lot of Japanese, like early 2000s Japanese romance dramas as well. Like Shunji Iwai, who did Hannah and Alice and Love Letter. Like those movies, well, especially Love Letter was really big in Korea, and it kind of set in motion that very kind of like glowy, soft lighting, emphasis on highlights cinematography. So this movie is kind of a hybrid between that and like the kind of very almost saturated Korean cinematography, which is why everything looks very like pleasing to the eye in this
very
movie.
Easy to digest.
And I mean, like, Kim Yoo-Jung and Han Hyo-jo are both, I mean, easy on the eyes. I mean, I can't deny that.
Everybody in this movie is easy on the eyes.
Visuals kind of like carried me through. I actually watched this movie again today because I was wondering, like, did I actually like this movie, or is this just me liking the visuals? But on the second watch, I'm like, yeah, this is an enjoyable film. It's not a particularly deep film either, but it's very cute and almost a very like comic feel. Like a lot of the visual gags seem like they come from like a manga or manhwa.
It did
like,
feel like feel like I was watching an anime at times, like a kind of a slice of life anime. A lot of the interactions are kind of like they're kind of like non sequiturs, you know, like they're not. They don't really play a huge part in the story, but it's kind of like within these like small interactions, they develop the characters and the relationships between the characters. Like when they go on that school trip, for example, and like all the girls get smashed because they've been drinking. Like that whole vibe is kind of like just from an anime, like with the exception that they are actually drinking alcohol in this movie, I believe.
That's quite interesting because this is a PG rated film, so it's like they're drinking alcohol. If you were making like a PG rated movie in the West, like you wouldn't even really be allowed to show minors drinking, unless it's like, I mean, if you were making like a film set in high school that was like for adults, say like Perks of a Wallflower or like Mean Girls, then that's fine. I think Americans are quite good at that kind of high school drama when it's directed at adults, but they're not necessarily the most light watchers either. Like,
Mean Girls is pretty light.
Yeah, Mean Girls is quite light, but there's much more of a social commentary.
Right.
Whereas this movie, at a surface view, there's not any commentary really on this movie. It's just like a very simple story told in a pretty enjoyable way. Like especially the set in 1999. It's quite nostalgic just looking at
I think
some of the
this
technology
movie is
they're
definitely
using.
like directed at our generation.
Yeah,
At millennials, because like the whole setting, like the little kind of subtleties in it, like the usage of pages within the film. Her parents own a video store.
Oh yeah, the video store. I quite enjoyed the relationship between her parents in this movie. In a lot of like Korean movies, when they focus on like the main character being a female, it's always like the parents are like beating them or something, or like kind of very harsh, but also like they're loving as well. And it gets a bit like, it's good to watch, but sometimes you kind of just want to watch a family like be nice to each other, but also have some arguments here and there. I think
They seemed pretty organic. Like
it's
just a regular family.
It's not really the focus. Oh, yes, actually taking it back to the 90s technology. There's a scene where like one of her friends is playing DDR, and it looks really funny. But like back in the day, we used to think that was like the fucking coolest shit ever. You walk past an arcade,
I still think it's the coolest shit ever. If I walk into an arcade and see someone smashing DDR, you better believe I'm impressed, Tommy.
It's funny because it's so impressive in real life, but the way that it's shot in the film, it makes it kind of look a bit silly. I don't know. It's just like the intense concentration and like her friend like gripping the backhand. Just like
and just like really fast footwork.
There's kind of like an absurdity to it, but like it just looks a bit silly. But like thinking about it, if I saw that in real life, I'm like, oh, that's quite impressive. But like the thing is, you wouldn't see it as much anymore because arcades are like dead now. So even seeing like an arcade, fuck, I miss those days, man. Like I think the nostalgia did hit me a bit in this movie. It's just like, oh.
Do you miss when people actually emailed each other?
Those were the writing days, letters, right? And this movie uses a lot of camcorders and stuff.
Because they're part of the broadcasting club, right? So they use a lot of that kind of like that VHS technology, and that comes through in some of the later scenes as well. And like I think that's a really good usage of that kind of like 90s technology, because when it comes back at the latter half of the film, it feels different because it's like I guess we'll get to it in spoiler territory.
I do want to talk a bit more about that, but overall, like this movie is quite easy to watch.
And it's not just the setting of the 90s and the technology, it's like the theme as well, I think, of like the turn of the century. Like it was a time where people were really looking towards the future, like it kind of a little bit uncertain about what was happening, but like a big theme in this film is like the progression of time, I guess, and like how things change. And like you can see that they've recorded like messages to themselves for their future selves, because like everybody was doing that in 1999 because we all thought the world was going to end.
It was going to end and stuff.
So it's pretty good theme as well. I did enjoy that.
Doing that kind of thing is a pretty common trope. I really like the Japanese movie. It's called I forgot, Linda. And there's kind of a bit at the start where there's basically the club that's just recording through a camcorder. And then there's another movie, really, I think a pretty popular Korean movie called Sunny. And it's that one set, like, jumps back between the thousands and the 80s. And then, like, just the use of, like, camcorders in that movie as well. Just like characters watching themselves in the past. There's just like something about the camcorder look that like hits you in the feels. It has its own quality, like the flaws.
It's definitely different to like these days. If someone were to do that, it would be filmed on a smartphone, right? And because like we've seen that in what's that movie about the plane, Emergency Declaration. You know, when they're all like leaving messages for their loved ones, and it's not the same.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because I think it's the this might ring true to us, but it's like when you watch VHS footage or recorded footage through a camcorder, it's usually associated with our parents filming us as kids. So it gives that kind of energy.
Yeah.
When I see smartphone technology, it's kind of like I think about people using it for TikTok. So it's kind of like the difference between what my brain sees in these different aesthetics and what it connects it to.
For sure.
So,
yeah. And I guess that's the nature of nostalgia, isn't it? Like one day, like Zoomers are going to look back at smartphone videos and be like, oh, that's really nostalgic, actually.
Yeah, but like fucking aren't all smartphones like basically cinema cameras now? So there's not even gonna be.
Yeah, I guess they'll look at footage from an iPhone 4 and be like, oh, those were the days. Yeah. 720p. Oh, yeah.
I'll put in a little bit of a maybe unrelated tangent. It's weird because like when I see that kind of footage like used in film, I actually watched a movie called 20th Century Nostalgia very recently. And this movie is a 97 Japanese movie, so pretty old.
Okay.
And most of it is shot using VHS. And it's another kind of a cute movie like this, but maybe a little bit more art house, I guess. But yeah, there's just something that's quite like honest about it. And like the characters in that are kind of just using it for a bit of tomfoolery to like not really show anyone. So there's this kind of like innocence to it, I think.
It's funny because in a different context, it can be quite terrifying. VHS.
VHS.
If you're thinking of movies like The Ring, it can add a very spooky quality to it. So I guess context is everything.
Yeah, but sometimes when I watch like some newer stuff that's been shot on a red, like you can kind of tell when something looks cheap, even if it is shot on like a really good camera. I'm talking about the second Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon movie.
Okay.
Like it looks very clean, but it has just lost all that filmic personality. But I don't want to get too much into that movie because we're not talking about that movie. But I don't know. It's just like sometimes you can. Yeah, I'm not really sure where I was leading, but
no, I think it was done well in this film.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the performances, though. So there are basically four main characters in this film. Well, 3.5, I reckon. There's Na-Bora, the young Na-Bora played by Kim Yoo-Jung. There is Bora's best friend that went to America, Yeondu. Yeondu.
Yeondu is the character, and
Yoon-so is
Yoon-seo, Yoon-seo.
Yeah. And there's the two boys. The two boys, one is named Baekhyun-jin, who Bora believes is Yeondu's crush. And there's Hyunjin's best friend, Woonho, played by Byeon Woo-seok. So what did you think of these performances?
Kim Yoo-jung is the easiest standout. Like, because she's the protagonist, right? She carries the film, and she does that very kind of like that Han Hyo-jo performance, that girly, charismatic, a bit dorky, also like has a bit of attitude as well, but is like very charming. So she does a pretty good job, and I think this is the first time I've seen this actress ever in a film. I think she's quite popular in Korea.
Yeah, I was trying to think because she looks really familiar, but I think I must have just seen her in Running Man because I looked at her filmography. I'm like, hey, I haven't seen any of this. But yeah, she's quite good. I would say she's good in almost all the scenes except for any scene where she's crying. Like every time she cried, I wasn't sure if it was meant to be funny or not.
I think actually I made a note of that. I called it the melodramatic ugly cute cry.
Yeah, like
would you put it that way? I think it's supposed to be kind of like a spectacle.
It's not meant to be like heartbreaking, right? When she's crying.
It's supposed to be kind of like funny, but also like you feel sad for her, I think. So it's not supposed to be like that cry when someone is dead. It's kind of like, it's a cute cry.
Right.
So
like the wailing.
Yeah. So it's so like, I actually kind of like found them a bit charming as well. I think it's quite popular in these like lighter romance dramas, I think. So it's not that serious a cry, because you feel emotion, but you also feel like it's softening the blow a little bit. So no, that's interesting. Because I actually liked the ugly cute cry. I'm like, oh, that's fun to watch.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I just wasn't sure, like tonally, whether like how I was meant to feel, or like whether, because sometimes like I laugh at stuff that's not meant to be funny, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I do that all the time, so I wasn't sure if this was one of those instances, or whether, like, you're not meant to feel that sad. But yeah, I think you're right. I think, like, those scenes, especially where she's just wailing, is more comic than sad. The two boys, I thought they were okay. I particularly liked Park Jung-woo's portrayal of Hyunjin. This kind of like friend. It's kind of like smarmy, like hot guy who knows his heart. That was fun. The other one, his friend,
Woo-ho,
played by Byeon Woo-seok. I thought he was pretty good as well. Again, like, he had a bit of crying going on as well, and I think that time definitely I laughed when I shouldn't have laughed. Like,
when he
there's a bit where he was on the train.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Actually, I laughed at that as well, because it's just like there's kind of a bit of a climax of crying. That's maybe a little bit too much crying.
Sure.
So I was just kind of like, I laughed at that as well.
But I even think Bora's best friend, Yeondu, was really good. Like, especially in the latter half of the film, when she becomes a bit less insufferable. She does this kind of really good, like, portrayal of somebody that is, like, bubbly, but, like, still feeling a lot of pain, I guess. It's kind of like putting on that brave face, I guess. I think they all did a pretty good job.
I thought the best friend was all right. Like, she kind of doesn't have too much of. She's not the main focus, but like she does pretty well. I quite like the friends in this movie, but they don't get very much screen time at all. I think maybe there was more of them that was probably just left on the cutting floor. Probably better for the pacing of the movie, but like I like those kind of comic side characters, especially the one that like had the glasses. That character design just makes me laugh. So like they're usually kind of like
some Harry Potter glasses.
It would have been nice to see more of them, but probably they weren't very important to the story. I think it's just to show that Bora is not really. She doesn't really have a hard time in this movie. There's basically no antagonists in this movie, which is interesting because, like, my problem with, like, let's say the American versions of this kind of romance drama is that there's a very kind of, like, forced villain, like a bully, but kind of like a lame bully. I don't know. It's just like, and I think, like, the omission of that in this movie is kind of just makes it stronger. It just kind of focuses on maybe like the quirkiness of Bora
and the romance, the love triangle, or the love square, or whatever that develops. I think so too. I think this kind of movie doesn't really need a villain. Would have been a bit of a downer if it did include one. I think like, Bora's character is interesting because she tries so hard to stalk this guy for her friend. Like, it's like almost like an all-consuming kind of thing in her life.
Well, it's true. It's like I like the theme of friendship in that. So it like really shows the characters to both Bora and her friend, like in a later plot point. But the stalking thing, I wanted to make a mention of that. The main character of this movie was a dude. do you think there'd be a different reaction to this movie?
It would be that TV show You, I reckon.
So it would just change genres completely, right? I don't know much about You, but it's like a serial killer.
Yes,
isn't it, or
it's
something?
a
Yeah,
stalker
okay.
slash serial killer.
So you can't do this plot line as a guy without being a serial killer.
If they were all school kids, and if it was handled in the same kind of cutesy fashion, maybe it would work in the past as like a ironically as a dated 90s film, probably. Yeah. But yeah, maybe not in today's climate, I reckon. Yeah, I could be wrong though.
I feel like this plot point replaced with a dude is still quite popular in Japan and Korea, or let's just say Asia in general. I can't think of any movies at the top of my head at the moment.
There is a way to do it, but it's much harder, I think, to display that kind of like this kind of innocent motive in a male character than in a female character.
It's interesting because a lot of the romance dramas that I'm used to or that come to mind, because like I mean the classics, is My Sassy Girl. That was a male director, wasn't it? I think so. Let me double check that. Yeah, so the My Sassy Girl was directed by
Kwak Jae-young.
Kwak Min Jae.
Yeah. Dude.
Oh no, hang on.
Yeah, no, it's
no
a guy.
Kwak. Yeah. Hey, I'm getting like a different dude.
I think they're both guys.
Yeah. Either way, it's a guy.
Yeah.
But then I even think about like some of the Japanese romance dramas, like the ones that I think of is like, I mentioned Chunji Iwai, but then there's like there's another movie called Heavenly Forest, crying out love in the center of the world. So those movies kind of have it's usually the dude that's the main character. But like, it's the girl that's the object of affection. And this kind of like goes as well as like, I guess, kind of the trope that's used at the end of this movie, which we probably, when we go into spoilers, talk about that. But yeah, it's, I forgot what point I was trying to make now. I'm just like...
Something about male leads, whether a male lead could make this work.
Yeah, that's
this
it,
premise
yeah.
work.
Yeah. But like I don't think those movies have like the stalker plot point, but I definitely know that I've seen some animes use that plot point. But no, this movie is, I think it's a female director, this one. A director that I haven't heard of, Bang Woody. So this is her film debut. So this movie she wrote this movie, I think. So it's more like this is from the female perspective, but she still portrays like her female characters as quite girly, and it's still like, for me as a dude who I guess loves violence, I suppose, in his films, I can still quite enjoy this movie as well. But like, I don't know, do you think do you think guys would enjoy this movie?
Well, I mean, I think any fan of romantic comedies would probably enjoy this film. For me, I think it was okay. Like, I think it was competent enough, but didn't really stand out to me that much. It does look very good though. Like, it's not a bad film. I just feel like, the plot is kind of like generic-ish. But yeah, it's fine. Like, I think if you are really into romantic comedies, you'll like it regardless of your gender. I don't think it really like sways either way. Like, the main character Nabora is basically Han Hyo-jo, right? So she's like this kind of spunky, but also cute character, which I think is like, it's a good way to portray like, it's a good kind of middle ground between having like a overly strong female character and an overly cute female character. Like, it's a really good middle ground to tread, I think. It's like very palatable for most people.
Because I wonder, like, with this kind of character, it's definitely very palatable in Asia. But I wonder in this today's climate if this kind of character would resonate with, you know, some female audiences.
I think she does enough to make herself relatable to people.
Yeah.
She's like, she likes eating pizza. She's kind of a loudmouth, and she knows taekwondo.
She likes dirty movies, apparently.
Yeah,
so... she doesn't like dirty movies. But yeah, I think actually on the comment on being like a generic movie, the plot is quite predictable, except one point that I was surprised, but I wonder if I was just tired. But like, it is, this movie is not really a surprising movie, but I think more for me, it's the way it's told. It's quite I think it's the spectacle of love, I suppose. Like I was talking about, like, just like the way the film is shot. There's a lot of like very nicely composed shots in this movie, like more so than what this kind of movie usually would need. And I think if this was, say, a K-drama where like the budget was less, like I probably wouldn't have watched it. Because like there's a certain cheapness that starts to grate on me when I start watching those shows. But with this one, it's like you can tell there's a lot of effort gone into this movie, and there's a lot of they've done a lot with very little. I mean, yeah, CGI New York and CGI New Zealand is yeah, I mean, I can't, obviously, you know, traveling, making a film crew go to another country is a lot of money.
And maybe it was like, filmed during COVID. Who knows?
I had to make the comment. Like, I kind of laughed when I saw the plane go over.
It's like a 5-second bit. So,
I was like, that's
but
not
yeah,
New
on the
York.
whole, I agree. I think it's a really good looking film. Yeah, I don't know. I just think the plot wise, it's fine. It's quite a little bit by the numbers.
It's pretty, It's I think it's very by the numbers. But like, yeah, sometimes you kind of just need that as well. Yeah.
Shall we talk spoilers?
Get into spoilers? Yeah. So, so there's the first twist. Yeah.
First twist
where,
is okay. Go ahead.
Where like she, Bora, who has been like filling Yondu on the secrets of the boy that Yondu likes. Bora thinks Yondu likes Hyunjin.
Yeah, because she tells her that she likes Hyunjin.
Yeah, but she actually likes Wonho. And if you're listening to this and you're confused, don't worry. I was confused while I was watching this movie for like the first half. Like, I could not tell who Hyunjin was or who Wonho was. So when this twist came in, I was legitimately surprised. Like, wait a minute, I'm actually confused. Like, I don't know who's who anymore. It's like, it's a mistake that I made as a spectator of this movie. I'm like,
so
oh,
different,
shit.
Just because they have the same build and haircut doesn't make them the same person.
No, I literally thought they were the same person. Because, like, she'd be, like, talking to someone, like, one of the guys. Like, I kind of just put them as one of them's taller and the other's shorter. And I was like, oh, yeah, she's talking to this guy now.
They have completely different personalities, Tommy.
I don't think they do. I was just like, oh, yeah. Because, like, one who kind of comes off as a bit spunky at the start. With a bit of attitude for the conflict.
Yeah.
And then, like, he slowly morphs into the quiet one. Whereas Hyunjin is the quiet one that becomes, like, the spunkier one.
You're right.
I got confused. So, like, it was like, it's kind of like almost a predictable twist, but because I was confused when I was watching the movie, I'm like, you know what? That's not bad. Like, whether that's the screenwriter or that's just me being tired watching this movie. Yeah. When I watched it again, I'm like, all right, it's a bit clearer now because I knew what was happening. But I was like legitimately confused when like that reveal came.
This reveal throws a spanner in the works because by this time, Bora has developed feelings for Wonho. So when she realizes that her friend Yondu doesn't have feelings with Hyunjin, she actually has feelings for Wonho, the guy that she likes as well. it kind of throws everything awry and creates this love triangle between them three. With Hyunjin kind of being cast aside as an unwanted trash.
He was kind of cast aside. But they're like, I was always like, they're just both been cut. Like, 'cause I just didn't know who was who.
The problem I had with this twist is like, it's kind of like, they do explain it, but I'm like, you can't pick it because it's something that is very unlikely to happen. So basically, like in Yeondu's first interaction with Hyunjin, or Hyunjin/Wonho, she confuses Wonho for Hyunjin because Wonho is wearing Hyunjin's jacket when she meets him.
And the camera had a lot of exposure and sun rays.
The sun was in her eyes, so she couldn't see him.
Oh my god.
She just knew that she was in love.
Highly implausible. I'm like, come on, like, I mean, like, my eyesight's pretty bad, but I'd be able to see the dude's face. But like, yeah, I think that's the thing about these kind of movies is because they are quite grounded in reality, but they are like utterly implausible. As you said, like, come on, anyone would see like the dude, you know. But then again, I would have just been like, I got confused. You know what? Maybe Yeondu actually did see Hyunjin, but she just got them mixed up as well. So she
I mean, you did, so it's pretty understandable, I guess.
Now that would have been a twist. Imagine if Yeondu actually did pick the right guy, but then she thought that one who
she just
was
switched. Yeah. She just switched because she liked the Baskin Robbins outfit.
Yeah. What a plot twist though. That would have been interesting. That's really the subversion. But the thing is, I don't think this movie was trying to reinvent the wheel in any way. It's like it's using a lot of these Asian romance tropes.
Sure.
Like
it's kind of just like triangle. This is happening now. Just go with it. That creates a love triangle, right? And Bora initially decides to dump Wonho because, like, for the sake of her friend, so her friend can pursue Wonho.
But it's predictable. I mean, you know that, like, Yeondu's gonna find out, and then Wonho and Bora are actually just going to get together and profess their love to each other.
Yep, which they do. And they have a messy crying scene that goes on for a while. Cry.
I actually enjoy the melodramatic, like, cute cry. It's kind of like what maybe like Gun Kata is to an action spectacle is what
possibly
ugly crying is to like a romance
even
drama.
The construction of that scene when they're at the train station, it's like very, very like quintessential romance, you know. It's like when it makes me think of like when you're watching like an anime or something and the characters are watching a romantic film on TV, you know, that's like the kind of scene that would be playing.
That's actually a very good way to put it. Just a very like melodramatic, like scrunched face,
easily recognizable, you know, like the lighting, the fact that they're at a train station saying goodbye and like professing their love.
And you're talking about the acting. It's like you don't know whether it's good or bad acting. It's kind of like comical crying. Like I'm thinking of that those scenes in Decision to Leave where Wei Tang is watching TV and there's like dramas. It's like
it's almost like a parody of it itself.
But this is like you were actually watching one of those movies, and it's like it's partly like a guilty pleasure, and then like as you said, it's like after Bora does like her ugly cry, he gets onto the train, and then he starts doing his ugly crying, and then, I love this. He's like, it's quite funny. But that scene actually, like the movie could have ended there, and maybe like it had its good ending, but there's kind of a bit of overtime, because when I was watching that scene, I was saying, there's still like 20 minutes left of this movie.
Well, I mean, the first scene of the movie has Han Hyo-jo as the grown-up version of Bora, so you kind of know it's going to circle back to that at some point.
Yeah, right? I mean, like, basically, you knew that, like, somehow Wonho is just going to die, which it's interesting because it's not really built up to, and it's almost like as part of a tight screenplay, it's a little bit like self-indulgent in just like extending a story that's like already finished. If you took out the Han Hyo-jo stuff, it actually might have been a nicer movie. But I actually like this trope in a lot of the Asian dramas. Like, someone's gotta die, because that's just the tragic way of Asian storytelling.
My money was on Yondu, but somebody's gotta die.
And this is why I brought up about like the male directors before, because like in a lot of those movies that I had mentioned, it was too late. You listen. Oh, this is a spoiler section. Like, the female lead dies. That's just part of the course. You know, you find someone that you love, she gonna die because this, you know, some unknown incurable disease just happens, and it's just like, oh well, just die.
And once again, it is like a very easy, tried and tested way of injecting just that, you know, a little bit of like heartache into your movie.
But it's kind of like, again, it's part of the spectacle of these kind of movies,
right?
Because like, again, this is probably just me being biased, because like, you know, the latter 20 minutes is Han Hyo-jo focused, so it's always just nice to see her do her thing like really well. So yeah, she because at the start she receives like a videotape, that it's like a porno basically.
Yep.
That she stole from her parents because she like Hyunjin like wanted it. So he takes it.
Yeah, wouldn't her wanted it, Darby.
Oh,
Hyunjin is the other guy.
Oh, I'm so confused. Fuck. All the same, man. They're just like this doppelganger. It's like Jesse Eisenberg and Michael Cera, man. Like, you know, if there was a remake of this in the early thousands, it'd be those two. Would be the guy. Yeah. But yeah, fucking the taller guy. one of the tape, and he like gives it to Han Hyo-jo. Well, her brother sets up like an art exhibition. I mean, like, going back a bit further, it's like because he has to go back to New Zealand for some reason, which I don't remember. But they're emailing each other, and he suddenly stops, and like she doesn't know that he's dead, and she's like trying to get over him during college.
Yeah, she thinks he's just ghosted.
I actually found that scene pretty funny.
I think that's meant to be funny.
The blind date.
The guy panicking.
just like leaving. Yeah. So that's used to the comic effect pretty well. Maybe a parody of those kind of scenes. But she goes to the art exhibition that he did, which is it's actually, thinking about it, it's exactly the same as Heavenly Forest.
Oh, yeah?
Like, the guy goes to the art exhibition, and then he's like, yeah, she actually died like years ago. So it's like, oh shit, man. And then he has an ugly cry, whatever the main character in that movie does. So like, everyone's just ugly crying. But like, then she watches the videotape, and she has her like Matthew McConaughey moment, and like, this is when you see like the full spectacle of like VHS footage, and like it actually like got me quite emotional. Like, whether or not these scenes were necessary to the story, like, I just enjoyed the moment, I guess. And I think it's kind of like, and this is like what I was reading one of like Murakami's books on like how to write stuff, or his philosophy on writing.
Right.
And he talked about like, you know, when he writes, part of it's following like a structure, but then like breaking free and just writing what you like, or like kind of like jazz, you kind of improvise a bit.
Okay.
And I feel like this section of the movie is just kind of like, it might not have been necessary, but I think the director just liked this trope and just wanted to use it, and just kind of as a free-form story. So it was quite, it was impactful to me.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, like, without it would be even more generic, I think.
That's the thing. That's exactly the thing, because you following like,
because like sure,
a screenplay structure.
Yeah, like
right?
Sure. The death, like somebody dying at the romantic interest dying, is not something new, but I think the way it was executed was quite memorable. Like you said, her watching the videotape, And yeah, having that, the Matthew McConaughey moment, as you call
She's
it.
like Matthew McConaughey. Like, it's really like when Han Hyo-jo or the Bora is watching herself. It's actually like it is a really like nice moment in this movie, and like it's very cute, you know.
Yeah, because you see parts that he has filmed throughout the course of the movie as well, like, but it's seen from a different perspective. It's seen from his like first person view, whereas like in the previous scenes we're watching it as an audience member, but seeing it through his lens and through that kind of like camcorder VHS filter, and then it's got like his like final speech with the glorious CGI New Zealand in the background.
and his little brother, but like because I think that was a big reason I wanted to talk about this movie. It's because like I think I was reading some reviews. This movie's been quite positively received because like not that many people have seen it, and I doubt many people are gonna listen to this episode. But I just like it. But it's because like, you know, as journeying through my film journey as a screenwriter, and maybe when I give critique or suggestions to other people's like screenplays, like I always kind of suggest things that I've been taught or learnt, and that's kind of like following the structure, you know, and to make things as tight as possible. But like I'm always finding that a lot of the movies that I really enjoy like don't follow the structure, and they kind of always just go with the flow and do their own thing.
It's jazz, baby. It's jazz.
Yeah, so it kind of messes me up because I'm just like, oh fuck, like
all that hex debt for nothing.
Yeah, that's right. All that debt. But like, there's like maybe even in some of my like own like previous work, I'm like, oh, I wish I kind of just went with my intuition a bit more and just like done something that I thought was right, as opposed to always like following advice, like always following the structure. Obviously, there's a balance. Like if you're too self-indulgent, then it's like, yeah. Even though I quite like self-indulgent movies, I've definitely seen some movies where it's all right, that's probably a bit too much. But there's just something like, not like, because when I was watching this movie and thinking about it, I'm like, none of the Han Hyo-jo stuff was necessary, really, like the adult stuff. But it just added this flavor, I guess. And that's maybe just star power. That's maybe just being good at your craft as well.
I think it's also like bringing it back to like the theme of time always moving forward and things changing. I think that last scene especially kind of hammers it home because because it is a different actress playing the character. Like you can see the growth like physically. So like that as well adds that kind of distinction of like, okay, she's not the same person anymore, you know? And like, and the fact that Yoon-ho has died and like quite a long time ago as well. That kind of inevitability of change really like is hammered home. Which again, like, you know, as a theme in and of itself, it's not entirely original, but it still succeeds in making you feel like the loss and, you know, that the pain that she might be feeling.
I think you're right. Maybe I didn't initially. Well, I actually watched this movie twice, so maybe I was just tired twice. But I didn't really pay attention to that theme that much. I think that's the maybe the trap of this kind of movie is mistaking it for something that's you think is quite just light and not really going to say very much. But there's something there. I guess the theme of the passage of time, and it's also like we were growing up at about Bora's age in 1999, so that kind of hits it home harder. And like Han Hyo-jo's been acting for a little while now, and I still remember like when I was first introduced to her watching Running Man, this is like 10 years ago now.
At least
2013. Episode 123. never forgotten it, Dan.
It's like a good episode.
The best episode. It's a good episode. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, that's it. Yeah, she would have been the same age. I think the Kim Yoo-Jung is actually 23 in real life, whereas Han Hyo-jo would have been like 23 back then as well. So it's just kind of like, it's funny because back then it's like, oh, this is quite a new actress that I've discovered, and now it's like, oh, we're getting old. And then it's kind of like, you kind of feel it watching a movie like this as well. Yeah, it's a good spectacle. It might, I don't know. I wonder like what maybe like a boomer or a Gen Z would feel watching this movie. It might be like, yeah, I don't know. It's just,
I think they might be mildly entertained.
Yeah, probably, yeah. It's a pretty like, yeah, it's like I said, it's this pretty random movie. But I think like it's these kind of like little movies, these little gems that you kind of like put away in your closet and you just think about, which is why like, yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about this movie. And also it's Valentine's romance, and I'm just continuing the Han Hyo-jo theme.
We're in a sentimental mood.
yeah, I think so. I've already got a movie lined up for next year as well that has Han Hyo-jo in it, so it's all good.
Oh, good.
We're just gonna keep rolling with that. Yeah.
We
She'll be
should
like,
make
what,
it
36?
like Han Hyo-jo month.
Yeah, that's true. Just don't want to talk about that pirate movie because it's kind of shit. the last treasure.
You gotta take all of them, Tavi. You know.
Yeah. I still. It's funny. I remember I was actually listening to our previous Valentine's Day ep, and I mentioned that I was watching her drama. W2 Worlds. Yeah, I still haven't finished it. Maybe because like the lead actor in that movie is now IU's boyfriend, and I think he's very bland. Yeah. That show, it's like, it's good, but I just can't bring myself to finishing it. Like I don't know. Like
Korean dramas are a little bit hard to finish, I find.
It's weird because like it has the trope. It's got Han Hyo-jo in it, but it's just. I think there's just a certain cheapness to it. And I do think that actor kind of sucks as well. Like, I'm not just being bitter.
It's got nothing to do with his romance with IU.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with that. He's just kind of, I don't know, I don't enjoy his performance. It's just, yeah.
Well, I haven't finished watching Happiness, so... they're just long. The Korean dramas are quite long.
Yeah, that's true. Happiness is, I quite liked Happiness. It's a fun show.
I'm sure we'll talk about it eventually. But do you have anything else to say about this movie?
Yeah, no, let's keep this episode a bit shorter for a change.
Okay.
I think this is quite a good watch. This is usually something a little bit different from what we usually cover. Well, not really.
No, just an Asian film.
I was just in a very sentimental mood when I watched this movie. So it's I do recommend it. Good to watch with your partner, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to watch. So nothing wrong with it. All right, guys. But what did you think of 20th Century Girl? If you've seen it, did you enjoy the nostalgia of the 90s, or did you find it a little bit bland? Let us know. You can get in touch with us at twoasianblokes@gmail.com. You can join our Facebook group to be part of the conversation, or you can follow us on Instagram at twoasianblokes to see what we're up to.
Yeah, bonus points if you keep track of the two male leads in this movie, because I'm still like struggling. They're the same person, man. The same actor.
Yeah.
There's only one haircut in Korea. It's that
pretty much
haircut.
I wonder if the fashion of this movie is accurate to the 90s fashion of Korea. I'm sure that's a detail they would have paid attention to.
Yeah, it seems like they did a pretty good job. But then again, we're not Korean, so there might be a Korean guy like, this movie is so fucking original.
They look the same as like Korean people today. So I know fashion is cyclical in a way, but like...
Oh, that's true. Yeah. just visuals, man.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's enough. That's us for now. We'll catch you later, guys.
Yeah, get ready to record during the heat wave then in a couple of days. Well, that's me. I gotta get prepared. Fuck. All right. See you later, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.